We talk a lot about the Mormon Church and about the FLDS, the polygamists, here on Dark Hearts. Utah is famous for canyons, temples, and tabernacles, but tucked away in its valleys behind the clean suburban streets of Salt Lake County thrives a group lesser known to outsiders. They call themselves the Davis County Cooperative Society, but everyone else calls them the Order, the Kingston Clan. This is a story about faith turned corporate, prophecy twisted into empire, a world of polygamy, control, and whispered racism, where children are taught loyalty to bloodlines above all else. It's also a story of those who broke away, voices echoing from inside the walls of one of America's most enduring cults. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more from me. It helps. I'm your host, Stacy Lee. Let's begin. To understand the Order, we need to rewind. Mormonism began in the 1830s with Joseph Smith, who founded the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. By the 1840s, Smith and later Brigham Young had embraced plural marriage, claiming God demanded multiple wives to raise righteous seed. If you are new here, I was born and raised Mormon. I left the church about 16 years ago. My family, for the most part, is still devout, and my journey has been difficult. If you have not watched this episode and you're more interested in that, you can hear it all here. I always divulge this for the sake of transparency whenever I'm talking about Mormonism. In 1890, the mainstream LDS Church banned polygamy under federal pressure. Not everyone complied. Splinter groups emerged, calling themselves fundamentalists. They were determined to keep the principle. Enter the Kingston family. In the 1930s, Charles W. Kingston embraced fundamentalism and passed the torch to his son, Eldon Kingston, who in 1935 founded the Davis County Cooperative Society in Utah. It was designed as both a religious order and a business cooperative. Members would consecrate labor and money to the group, and in return receive dividends. There is a concept in Mormonism called a return to the United Order. It's a concept of communal living where people will share everything, food, tools, skills, and live a communal lifestyle. Mainstream Mormons will say this is a fringe concept, but it lives in Mormonism as well. The outside world saw this group as a harmless co-op. Inside, it was spiritual communism married to dynastic ambition. Eldon Kingston preached that salvation was tied to bloodlines. The closer you were to Kingston blood, the more exalted. He encouraged intermarriage within the clan to keep it pure. So we are already very deep in white supremacy here. Marrying outsiders wasn't just frowned upon, it was seen as betrayal. Eldon died in 1948, but his theology lingered like smoke. Leadership passed through his brothers and sons. By the late 1980s, power consolidated under his descendant, Paul Eldon Kingston, a man who would bring the Order into the modern age, turning scripture into stock portfolios, prophecy into payday loans. Joseph Smith said celestial marriage would fill heaven with children. The Kingstons heard that and thought, perfect. Also fills our accounting department. Paul Eldon Kingston, born in 1959, became the trustee in trust of the DCCS. He took the reins in 1987. To outsiders, he looked like a mild-mannered businessman. Glasses, neat suit, quiet voice. Inside the Order, he was the prophet, the voice of God. Paul preached old-school Mormon fundamentalism, polygamy, obedience, and blood purity. But unlike other sects that hide in desert compounds, the Order embedded itself in mainstream commerce. Members were expected to work for Kingston-owned businesses, coal mines, pawn shops, grocery stores, construction firms, and most infamously, payday loan empires. Oh, I could say a lot of things right now that would get me in trouble. I like to do that apparently. Estimate put the cult's wealth in the hundreds of millions, even billions. They own Energy West Mining, Standard Restaurant Supply, Washakie Renewable Energy, and a web of financial companies. Workers are often underpaid, with profits funneled back into the order's treasury. Families live modestly. Well, Paul, he controlled the flow of cash, so he decided who got it. Order marriages are arranged. Teenage girls are pressured to marry older male relatives, often uncles or cousins. Yeah, that's not gross at all. Inbreeding isn't an accident. It is a feature. Genetic disorders became common, including fumarase deficiency, I probably am saying that wrong, a rare condition linked to high rates of cousin marriage. Children with profound disabilities were seen by outsiders as tragic. Inside, they were proof of loyalty to the bloodline. Oh, Lord, I am trying to, I gotta take a deep breath. This is my heritage, my lived experience and my life, and it is tough to talk about. Paul himself is believed to have over 30 wives and more than 200 children. Exact numbers are hard to pin down. Records are secret, marriages often unregistered, and births quietly filed. Birth records inside polygamy are very hard to track, and there is a reason for that outside of this cult. I've said this before. It ruffled some feathers. I'm going to say it again. If you live here in southern Utah, you have never seen a child or a polygamist with disabilities, and there is a reason for that. They get rid of them. I know it's a big allegation. There's a lot of proof to back it. What's clear is that Paul sees his offspring not as children, but as assets of the empire. Critics say his leadership style mixes fear and business. Members are told to keep sweet and obey. Ugh, we could do a whole episode on keep sweet. To consecrate labor and income. Women who resist marriages are threatened with eternal damnation, or worse, excommunication, which in the order means losing family, housing, and livelihood overnight. Most prophets just ask for tithes. Paul Kingston says, no, give me your 401k and meet your cousin at the altar. So what do kids in the order grow up hearing? At the core is Mormon fundamentalism, plural marriage, patriarchy, and the idea that only pure bloodlines are celestial. But the order adds unique twists. Members are taught that outsiders are dangerous, government is the enemy, and loyalty to the Kingston family is loyalty to God. Children attend order-run schools where secular curriculum is thin and religious indoctrination is thick. Children learn accounting before literature because the order needs bookkeepers more than poets. Young women are groomed for early marriage. Some are wed at 15 or 16, despite Utah's legal age being higher, with spiritual marriages not filed with the state. Young men are taught to obey leadership, work in the order businesses, and keep family secrets. Racism is embedded too, because of course it is. Former members say they were taught white supremacy, that marrying outside the race would darken the posterity, destroying spiritual exaltation. Critics tie these teachings to the clan's obsession with blood purity, echoing eugenics more than scripture. Physical and emotional abuse have also been documented. Survivors describe beatings for disobedience, food withheld, medical needs ignored. Child labor allegations swirl. Kids working long hours in Kingston stores or factories, unpaid except in dividends. To the outside world, the order insists it is just a religious cooperative. To insiders, it feels like a cage built from both faith and fear. Public schools teach math so you can get into college. Order schools teach math so you can calculate how many cousins you'll marry. For decades, the order managed to hide behind closed doors. Members kept quiet, outsiders were suspicious but unsure. But gradually, cracks split open. Former members began to talk. Their stories, remarkably consistent, revealed a hidden world of abuse, exploitation, and silence. One of the most disturbing allegations is that of child labor. Survivors describe starting work at age 6 or 7, cleaning order businesses, stocking shelves, washing dishes in Kingston-owned restaurants. By their teens, many were essentially full-time employees. Pay, if it came, was meager, often dividends that barely covered basics. Profit flowed upward, always upward to the Kingston elite. Then came the allegations of forced marriages. Girls as young as 15 were pressured into marrying cousins or older men. Some described wedding nights as assaults, coerced under threat of eternal damnation. And these weren't fringe incidents. They were woven into the culture of blood purity. Physical abuse is common. Former members describe being beaten with belts, slapped for questioning elders, or being locked in rooms for disobedience. How does this shit still exist? I just can't wrap my head around it. The lesson is always simple. Don't challenge the order. And there is always the matter of money. The order's empire expanded into industries notorious for exploitation: coal mining, pawn shops, payday loans, and renewable energy scams. Washakie Renewable Energy, a Kingston-linked biofuel company, was implicated in a $511 million fraud scheme, one of the largest in U.S. history. Several Kingston members went to federal prison in 2019 for that case. And if you would like me to talk more about that particular case, please let me know in the comments. I will cover it. Despite this, the order remains wealthy, their empire largely still intact. Outsiders see successful businesses. Insiders see empires built on sweat and silence. They claim they're building Zion, but apparently their version of Zion runs on coal dust, forged signatures, and cousin marriages.
New tonight, a public charter school operated by leaders within the polygamous Kingston group is now on probation.
Fox 13 News investigative reporter Adam Herbets exposed the problem nearly 2 years ago now. Adam is live in studio tonight with an update. Adam.
Yeah, Bob Kelly, while most kids are getting ready to go back to school at Vanguard Academy, today the state decided to clean house, voting to remove and replace all 9 of the school's board members. You might remember we first started reporting on Vanguard Academy in December of 2020 because we found this public charter school receiving millions of taxpayer dollars has students who are almost all members of the polygamous Kingston group, teachers who are almost all members of the Kingston group, and board members who at the time were all members of the Kingston group. Today, the state said even though public schools are supposed to have a clear divide between church and state, this decision has nothing to do with religion and almost everything to do with the way this school is deciding to spend your money on Kingston businesses. That's something former members say was taught to them from a young age. It's called bleeding the beast.
I was taught that the term bleeding the beast means to take money from the government, and that the government's the beast, and that they have plenty of money to give.
We are right now giving them the opportunity to be completely transparent.
At today's meeting, the state made it clear if Vanguard Academy still does not fix its problems, the state now has the right to take another vote to shut down the school 3 months from now. We just returned from that meeting where both sides laid out years' worth of frustrations they have had with the process. And tomorrow at 9, we'll show you exactly where your money is going and why state lawmakers have also been getting involved with this public charter school. For now, live in studio, Adam Herbets, Fox 13 News.
Not everyone stays. Some found the courage to leave. Some women raised in the order escape as teenagers and become advocates and directors at nonprofits helping ex-polygamists. They have described the psychological toll, the constant teaching that leaving meant hellfire, that outsiders were evil. They don't just leave their family, they leave everything they know and start from zero. Rachel Kingston spoke publicly about being married off as a teenager to a relative. She later fled and testified against the group. She said, "They teach you to believe that abuse is God's will. You don't question God, and you don't question the order." Jessica and Andrea Kingston, cousins, also left and became vocal critics. They described the economic exploitation, children laboring for free in Kingston companies, and the racism. They said, "We were taught that marrying outside white bloodlines would destroy our souls." It is 2020 frickin' 5. All humans on Earth have 99.9% the same DNA. And we still have idiots that believe the color of skin, the amount of melanin you have, I cannot deal with this stupidity. One of the most visible escapees is Amanda Ray, who appeared on the TV series Escaping Polygamy. She recalled how, as a child, she was told her purpose was to marry within the clan, bear children, and obey. Leaving was betrayal, but she did leave, and now dedicates her life to helping others out. Leaving is very difficult. The order controls not just marriages, but housing, jobs, and family ties. Those who leave are ostracized, financially destitute, and cut off from siblings and parents. Some require police protection, but their voices matter. They are the only ones who can reveal what really happens behind closed doors.
10 plaintiffs are suing the Kingston polygamous sect. The lawsuit accuses the group's top leaders of coercing girls into marriages, facilitating sexual abuse, and withholding wages. Fox 13 News investigative reporter Nate Carlisle explains.
The lawsuit was filed Wednesday in state court in Salt Lake City. Through 109 pages, the 8 women, 1 man, and 1 minor who are plaintiffs describe how the Kingston group teaches obedience to the top men and accuses them of grooming girls for teenage marriage, often in ways that violate the law. In one example, a plaintiff said she was 16 years old when in 2019 she secretly married her adult cousin. The lawsuit says the group's leader, Paul Eldon Kingston, gave a speech at the ceremony. The plaintiff goes on to describe being raped by her husband/cousin. The Kingston group is also known as the Order. The plaintiffs describe being assigned to work at Order businesses. Their paychecks would be deposited directly into a sect bank. When the plaintiffs left the Order, they allege, the bank refused to give them their money. We talked to 2 former members of the Kingston group. They are not plaintiffs, but are familiar with the sect's workings.
This is from when I was 13 years old, March 2003, showing that I was working 178 hours in a 2-week time period. Could have potentially been a month, but I believe they were 2 weeks, and getting paid $920.
Yeah, they're raised to listen to their parents. They're raised to obey the law of one above another. And so when their parent says, this is who you should marry, or figure out who you want to marry in the order, and those are their options, then yeah, it's coercion.
A lot of people would say, why don't these girls just get up and go? And a lot of them do, as you've had a whole show about
why don't you choose to go to hell?
So it's not just, running out of your house, it's that you're also making a decision about the afterlife. An
eternal decision. You're not just choosing like, hey, I'm going to go and work over here. I'm going to live across the street. It's no, I'm going to hell, and I'm giving up my salvation. I'm giving up my inheritance rights to heaven.
The plaintiffs make the argument that the unlawful marriages and withholding of wages amount to human trafficking under Utah law. They're asking for actual and punitive damages they can prove at trial. In the studio, Nate Carlisle, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Today, the order is estimated to have several thousand members, primarily in Utah, but without posts in surrounding states. It is still led by Paul Eldon Kingston, who again has over 30 wives and more than 200 kids, who knows how many grandkids. His grip on the clan remains firm, blending scripture with corporate management. Their businesses span industries: mining, restaurant supply. I had no idea they owned Standard Restaurant Supply. I actually used them when I had my restaurant. They have pawn shops and payday loan chains, which are notorious for predatory lending. Washakie Renewable Energy was once their flagship. Now it is disgraced by fraud. The empire gives the order power and insulation. Money buys lawyers, influence, and silence. And though polygamy remains technically illegal in Utah, enforcement is lax, believe me, especially when groups brand their marriages as spiritual unions, not legally registered.
Over the past few years, members of the Kingston family who ran a different company called Washakie Renewable Energy have pleaded guilty to dozens of charges, including fraud, money laundering, and obstruction. Now the private elementary school, where members of the group send their children, is facing multiple accusations related to its taxes. This is Ensign Learning Center near Decker Lake in West Valley City, a K-6 private school that prefers to keep its teachings especially private.
All I knew was that we had to keep polygamy a secret, and all the teachers there are order members. When you grow up in it, it seems so normal because you don't know anything else.
The Order is another name for the Kingston family. Amanda Ray from the television show Escaping Polygamy says she left the family after graduating from Ensign Learning Center, so she would not have to marry her cousin.
If an outsider asks an order member about their religion, you're never supposed to talk about the order.
I'm looking for somebody with Ensign Learning Center. According to property records, 11 homes in Salt Lake County are also registered to the nonprofit school, which raises the question, are the owners of Ensign Learning Center in the education business or the real estate business? I'm looking to speak to the owner of the house.
That's me.
Okay. My name's Adam. I'm with Fox 13 with the news. Do you work for Ensign Learning Center?
Oh, I'm not the owner of the house. Sorry.
Fox 13 has learned each of the tenants are members of the Kingston family. Only one woman identified herself as a teacher, and none were very forthcoming about why their house is owned by a school. Why does Ensign Learning Center own the house?
I'm not sure. We don't want to say.
You don't want to say anything? Okay.
I think they know to be careful of what they say to anyone with a camera.
Amanda says her mother used to own one of these homes. You rent from a school, or how does that work?
Yeah, I don't know anything.
Yeah. Until she joined the Order and signed the house over to Ensign Learning Center.
There's nobody here that is associated with Ensign.
My mom's a member. She's the second of 3 wives. From day one, they teach you that how important consecration is, that everything that you own, all of your incomings and outgoings have to be in the name of the Lord.
According to a complaint filed last month with the IRS, Ensign Learning Center is not disclosing any of these homes on their taxes, and the nonprofit may be giving family members special privileges by letting them stay there.
It would be a concern if they were using it for their own personal benefit.
Experts across the country say nonprofits are supposed to be able to explain how their assets serve the public. They've joined us in looking at the school's public tax records.
Why is there not more information there?
It is definitely possible to use nonprofits and tax-exempt organizations to avoid taxes.
They say it's difficult to tell whether the school is complying with its tax obligations.
Well, technically they can own residential property. The question would be why.
Do you think there are enough red flags for the IRS to open a formal investigation here?
I think that there are significant red flags.
Somebody filed a complaint against Ensign because of this house, saying that they're not reporting it on their taxes.
So?
What do you mean?
I don't know anything. I don't care. Anyway, I'm not going to talk.
Ensign Learning Center has ignored multiple requests for comment, and although the people who live at these homes may not know the full story, they continue to stand by their landlord.
I'm sure they would not cheat on their taxes.
At the end of the day, the Order it's just a business, and it preys on people like my
landlord.
I'm sure they would not cheat on their taxes.
At the end of the day, the Order it's just a business, and it preys on people like my mom.
Members of the Kingston family also run Vanguard Academy, a grade 7 through 12 public charter school that students attend after graduating from Ensign Learning Center. Last month, we ran a separate investigation on Vanguard and their issues with racial segregation. You can find that on our website, fox13now.com.
Now, Adam, before we let you go, what can you tell us about whoever filed the complaint in this case? Who did that?
Yeah, Bob, that's a good question. Even though people who have left the Kingston family have been upset about this religious group for years, this complaint was actually filed by someone who is not affiliated, just a guy who was reviewing tax documents and noticed what he calls a discrepancy. I have spoken to him on the phone, but he did not want to appear on camera.
Critics argue that the order perpetuates cycles of abuse. Children born into closed communities, indoctrinated from birth, married off in adolescence, tied to businesses they don't own. It is so incredibly insidious and so abusive. These kids don't have a prayer. They don't have a chance. It's not a faith, it's a machine, an intergenerational factory of labor, loyalty, and fear. And yet the cracks grow. Escaped members speak louder. Lawsuits mount. Documentaries shed light. The public begins to see not just quirky polygamists, but an empire laced with fraud, abuse, and racism. I would like to do a deeper dive on the Kingston Clan. If you are interested in that, please let me know. The question remains, how long can the order last? Well, history shows cults crumble when light seeps in, but the Kingstons have wealth and numbers and a fortress mentality. They are less isolated than the FLDS of my area here in southern Utah. They're more corporate than the LeBarons, and they're more adaptable than most sects. They say crime doesn't pay. The Kingstons would beg to differ. It pays dividends, complete with a quarterly report. At the heart of all this is a simple tragedy. Children born and raised, not with choice, but with orders. Women taught to obey, not to dream. Men taught to dominate, not to love. And a prophet who turned scripture into spreadsheets. The order hides behind the name cooperative, but its legacy is exploitation, abuse, and fear. The empire might last years, even decades, but the voices of those who escaped are louder than silence. And one day, those voices might be enough to tear down the walls. It is my hope that everything I research, produce, and post here might help that. I sure hope you enjoyed that episode. Hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and remember my podcasts. This one is Dark Hearts. It is on Apple and Spotify. I sure appreciate you. I wouldn't still be here without all of you. I love talking with you in the comments, and I love hearing your feedback. Stay safe, my friends, and be kind to each other. And I will see you next time on Dark Hearts with Stacy Lee. Bye.